Good day, young professional engineers and women's advocates, and all virtual attendees. We are broadcasting live from Alexandria, Virginia, the worldwide headquarters of the American Society of Naval Engineers. On behalf of our ASNE president, Rear Admiral Mark Hugel, I welcome the worldwide audience of hundreds of inspired professionals who are attending this live event virtually, and the thousands of who will view this in the future on our website. Welcome to our Young Professional Mentoring event. So ASNE has completed for years the Young Professional Mentoring sessions at all of our live symposia. And what we do is we bring young professionals, women mentors, and we usually bring a speaker in, and they talk about mentoring and how important it is for our career advancement. So we are continuing this. We've done a couple of these mentoring sessions virtually, and it's really been pretty popular. So we have an awesome lineup today of really amazing professionals. In a minute, I'm going to turn the virtual screen and the mic over to these awesome ladies and let them begin this awesome, really amazing panel discussion. I see more people are coming in virtually. Normally, if we were in person, I'd say, come on, fill in the seats down front. But I have a few admin remarks. I wanted to say the American Society of Naval Engineers was created in the 1880s, over 130 years ago. And the reason, the founding papers, the establishment part of it, was to create a mentoring and role model organization collecting lessons learned for engineers, scientists, shipbuilders to help, model and train young professionals to their profession. So in that sense, now we're trying to not only take that original founding mission of American Society of Naval Engineers, but expand it to be more diverse, bring in more women engineers, and really keep to our mission. And so many of you know that over the past year, we interviewed 30 inspirational, awesome ladies. 3 of those inspirational ladies are actually on this panel today. The first one is Janie Mines, A Matter of Resilience. You'll find that in this magazine. You can read a lot about and hear. We also have a digital edition that talks, you can hear her voice and talk about it. But Janie, first class women to graduate from the Naval Academy, the first African-American graduate. Awesome. You'll hear her. She's been all over national TV and other things, so you'll enjoy her conversation. Next is Barbette Lowndes, role model and mentor par excellence. So her story is in here, and I'm going to introduce her in a few minutes. The third one is another classmate, and I don't want to sound like I'm promoting my class, but I could have done all of them. They're pretty awesome. It's Stefanie Goebel. Her article is titled The Importance of Female Mentors and How to Become One. Some of her remarks will help talk about her career and how she became an awesome mentor. So as we move through, you'll hear from Lieutenant Commander Rebecca Shaw. She's a 2009 graduate of the Naval Academy. A Navy pilot, Navy test pilot. She actually went to a Naval Test Pilot School and then followed on with a tour as the aide-de-camp, the flag lieutenant to Vice Admiral Dean Peters, ComNav Air Syscom. And being a fellow Lance pilot, Light Airborne Multi-Purpose Systems pilot, Lance Bubba, I know that Dean Peters really was mentored by Becky because I can see the influence that Becky had upon him. You'll hear about her. What she did is she transitioned to the Navy and is now in NOAA as a NOAA Corps officer, flying Hurricane Hunters and doing awesome stuff with NOAA, and you'll hear about her. You really got to Google her and listen to some of her mentoring sessions she's had with young women because she could be a stand-up comedian. She's awesome. Next, I'll introduce Lieutenant Shuntiyea Langston, a 2016 graduate. She's already off to an awesome career. She was recommended by Janie Mines, my classmate, and anything Janie Mines recommends to me, I say yes, ma'am, and move forward. So Shuntiyea is awesome. And the last is Heidi, Lenzini, a 1995 graduate of the Naval Academy, a surface warfare officer, public affairs officer extraordinaire, and really an awesome mentor. So please go to our ASNE website, learn more about some of the women in these articles. And just for admin use, you'll see that there's a chat tab, there's a Q&A tab. Chat, everybody sees, you can talk back and forth. Q&A tab, put questions in there to ask these ladies. It is now my privilege to introduce our first panel speaker, and that's Barbette Lowndes. So Barbette, can you come up on video here and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Dale. My name's Barbette Lowndes. I graduated from the Naval Academy in 1980. I was an oceanography major. I served 27 years on active duty in the Supply Corps. My specialty was contracting. After leaving the uniformed service, I became a federal employee working in the human relations field for 8 years. And I'm now fully retired from paid employment, that is. I volunteer the heck out of my time. One of the great pieces of advice I received before fully retiring was that I wanted to make sure in that first year not to take on anything new or different, but to do better and do more where I was already volunteering. So instead of taking all these different organizations that everybody says, oh, you're retired, you've got time to join. Yes, but are you giving them all just a little bit of your time, or are you giving a lot of your time to one specific organization or just a few? So that mile wide and an inch deep, or meters wide and meters deep. So that's where I've been spending my time. I focus my volunteer work with the Naval Academy Alumni Association, the Navy Marine Corps Relief Society, the Armed Services YMCA, and my church. As I look back on my career, I see that I was offered a lot of opportunities, but I also missed out on an awful lot of opportunities. There were a lot of them withheld from me because of either cultural or physical barriers. What do I mean? Let me give you just a couple examples. Most of the places I was stationed, I was the only woman or just one of a few women officers or a few women civilian in leadership positions. And I'd find that many times there might be a meeting going on, we take a break, and the meeting would continue in the restrooms. I wasn't invited. And the meeting would resume and the issue was resolved. Or the issues would start and finish on the golf course. Another opportunity that I missed because I wasn't invited, or it wasn't an opportunity for me accessible at that time. So it wasn't all negative. I mean, it wasn't always withheld from me. There are a couple people that really made a difference for me. There was a commanding officer who opened the doors for me when he saw me as a supply officer on his ship and offered me the opportunity to qualify as officer of the deck underway. Now, a lot of Supply Corps officers would say, thanks, I don't need that extra duty. I'm busy enough down here in the supply department. But this I saw was an opportunity for me to learn a little bit more and to do some things that I hadn't done before. There was also a commanding officer who looked at me, and he had a gap in his executive assistant billet. It was going to be gapped for about 3 months. While that was normally filled by line officers and engineering duty officers, he turned to me and said, would you be my executive assistant? Again, many supply officers would have said, no, thanks. I don't need that kind of hassle. I don't need that kind of visibility. I'll stick to doing what I want. But I saw that as an opportunity for me to kind of see behind the curtains. What are they really doing? What are they really getting involved in at that leadership level? So I thought it was a great opportunity. But I've also looked and realized that not all missed opportunities happen just in the workplace. I mean, so much happens around us. The Naval Academy Alumni Association was a great example that for many, many years, I'd heard about how wonderful it was, how this bonding experience of going to class reunions and going to chapter meetings and going to football games, how wonderful that was. But that wasn't my experience. I might be invited, but I wasn't welcome. No matter where I was duty stationed, I'd go to the chapter event and I would try to get involved. And I'd go to a couple luncheons and, nobody would talk to me. Nobody would sit with me. Or the topic was just not something I was interested in. And after a while, I just kind of stopped going. And I did this at every duty station. And it just became disheartening. I said, well, what happened to that? I just felt like I missed out on something. But it was in 2006 that my classmates in San Diego invited me, and I mean really invited me and welcomed me to a chapter event. And then I happened to go back to Annapolis for a 30 Years of Women event. And I came back to my chapter and said, I want to tell you what it was like. I want to tell you what's different between 1976 and 2006. And I said, sure, come on, be the guest speaker. So they signed me up to be the guest speaker. And lo and behold, all these women came out of the woodwork in San Diego to hear me speak. And I looked around with a little bit of amazement and said, where have these women been? And then I thought, they probably had the same experience I had. They came, they weren't welcomed, they just didn't feel like they belonged, and they left too. So I made a vow to myself that every event I would be there, I would be in uniform, I would meet these women, but I'd say, don't sit with me. I want you to meet Stu. I want you to meet Dave. I want you to meet Dale. I want you to meet somebody else who's going to help you get more involved. And that became kind of my go-to of making sure everybody got involved. Well, then many years later, as I'm now on the board of trustees for the Alumni Association, they started this idea of these shared interest groups. That there are a lot of pockets of us out there who have kind of a common bond that isn't wrapped around just your local chapter or isn't wrapped around your class. And they said, well, why don't we try and put these groups together? So I stood up the Women's Shared Interest Group for the Alumni Association. So it's bringing the women together. But our goal was never just to kind of make a standalone organization. We always wanted to be a way to get the women connected, but then connect back to the larger Alumni Association. So over 4 years, we've grown from 67 members to over 2,300 members. We have women who are getting involved at the local level, at the national level. And that's what we really wanted, was to make it so that the women felt like they belonged. This is your organization too. So it really made a difference to me. So I spend a lot of my time mentoring people on how to close that gap of those missed opportunities, how to offer opportunities to other people. So some thinking points, maybe to throw in some questions for you to think about. When you're sitting there in your organization, do you ask to be involved and get to sit in on leadership meetings, just to sit in the back row and listen? If you're a senior leader, do you invite junior people to come in and sit and listen to hear what's going on behind the curtain? Do you welcome new people into your organization or onto your team? Or do you hoard your work and this is my popcorn bowl, you can't have any of this? Are you really welcoming and helping other people? So that's kind of where I'm coming from. And I'm looking forward to being part of this conversation. I thank you for inviting me, and I stand by for your questions.
All right, Barbette, please keep your camera on. Janie, bring your camera on. And everybody else, can you bring your camera on for now? We're going to get a screenshot of everybody. I know there may be one of our speakers that needs to leave before the end, and I wanted to make sure we're able to capture everybody that's here today on the screen. So, Janie?
I'm trying. Do you hear me?
We hear you. Yep, I know. Trying to figure out that phone. Maybe we should have never had the camera turned off.
Well, it's not coming back on.
Okay.
If you scroll at there we are.
There you are. All right. So we're going to keep, don't ever turn your camera back off until you're done. But we're going to, right now, we're just going to say, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're actually recording this so we can capture this page. But if you want to give a thumbs up or a wave or something like that, just so that we're showing we have awesome support from the American Society of Naval Engineers for women STEM advocates, women engineers, a diverse group. So everybody else, go ahead and turn your cameras back off. And without further ado, here is the most awesome Miss Janie Mines. Tell us your story. Tell us what you want to talk about.
Thank you, classmate Dale. I am so pleased and honored to be here presenting with, number one, these wonderful women, some of whom are my dear classmates and dear friends. But the whole ASNE organization and its wonderful mission and the work that you guys are doing all over the world, I'm just feel really privileged to be a part of this. My story is fairly simple. I was also part of the first class of women to be admitted to the Naval Academy, and I was the only Black woman admitted in that class. So as I think about mentorship and allyship, which I think is also equally important, I think about just understanding the value of the individual and understanding the value of ourselves, that we are important, that we are where we're supposed to be, that we're qualified, that we're capable, and that we just need to show the resilience and demonstrate that capability and ability to accomplish whatever objectives have been set forth for us to accomplish, that is critical to being able to move forward and be taken seriously in any environment. When I think of mentorship, I don't just think of it from the perspective of what I get from somebody who has understood my value, understood that I had something to add and to bring to the table, and is helping me to do that. I think of it also from the perspective of being a good mentee. Many of us have had mentors that have come and gone, and we don't understand that it's a reciprocal relationship. When someone is taking very valuable time out of their lives to invest it in you. So when you have conversations and they help you to work through issues, minimally follow up, get back, let them know what you did with their suggestion. It does not mean that we have to accept them verbatim all the time, but we should be able to articulate some serious thought about what we did do and what other alternatives we should take. It is a relationship. Every opportunity I get to, shed a light on my mentors or my allies, and my primary mentor is Admiral Pat Walsh. He was one of my first class midshipmen, a senior, when I was a plebe at the Naval Academy. He and I reconnected at the Pentagon. He became an important mentor to me there. Quite often telling me to do things that I wasn't quite sure why he told me to do, but it was no harm, and I did it. And later on, I realized what a great opportunity he put in front of me just because I was willing to follow up and do what he did, what he told me to do. One of the things that I do as a mentee is constantly, I realize that I don't just represent myself in that environment, because people realize that he is my mentee, that he supports me, that he helps to open opportunities for me that he knows that I'm qualified for, but that I'm just not being considered, that I represent him too. So when I think about the speaking engagements, when I think about conversations that I have, I think about how this might potentially impact Admiral Walsh. So that whole piece of understanding our critical roles as mentees, understanding that no matter what feelings others portray to us or what they may say to us, that we are valuable, we have something to contribute, and until we believe it, nobody else will. All that is very important. To me, an ally takes it to the next step. A mentor can be someone that kind of coaches and helps you to move along, but the mentors who actually are getting out there in front of you, breaking down doors, really putting their skin in the game for you, to me, is what an ally is. And that makes that piece that I talked to you about earlier so much more important, because they are showing to everyone else their allegiance to you. And it's up to us to step up and deliver according to what's being said. One of the key things about mentoring someone is not, quite often I've heard people mentor and they'll say, well, Janie's coming on board and, she's going to be the only Black person or the only woman, and that might be kind of hard for her, and the organization might not be ready, so I need you to support her. How about saying Janie's coming on board, she's dynamic, she's talented, she's going to blow this place away, instead of, quite often with the best of intentions, highlighting the challenges. If all those things are equally important about me, I prefer you focus on the other thing and have an organization excited about my contribution in terms of coming on board, instead of being weary to some foreign obstacle that's being placed in their way. So that is very critical. On this call, and one of my great friends, mentee, I think we mentor each other quite often, is Lieutenant Shuntiyea Langston. I met her when she was what do you call them? June, we call them third class, and sometimes it's hard to translate that. Sophomore at the Naval Academy. She has done nothing but made me proud every day since I chose to mentor her. She's dynamic. She's a wonderful leader. We talk through things, and then she makes a decision about what she thinks is the right thing to do going forward. But the reason I asked Shuntiyea to be here, she brings a perspective of not only a young mentor, but also a young mentee who's in the middle of or at the beginning of her career, and can give you perspective on who to look for as a mentee. And as a mentee looking for a mentor, what things should you look for? What should you focus on? How do you set up that reciprocal relationship that's so important? But I want to wrap this up really quickly by saying you're valuable. Those who choose to mentor you are also valuable, and so is everyone else in the world. And mentorship and allyship would not be so critical if we all just remembered that. So thank you, Dale.
Well, awesome. This is great. I should have put a little promo for your book, No Coincidences, because that's an awesome book, and it really everybody should be reading it. Speaking of that, just got a text from the lady who wrote your foreword, Dr. Laura Stubbs. So she's online watching you, just saying how awesome you are, and just an amazing lady. So Laura's giving you kudos too. And I got another one from Bill Crow, our classmate. Yeah. So anyway, thank you, and those are awesome remarks. And next up is going to be another classmate of ours, Stefanie Goebel. So Stefanie, if you could turn on your camera, and we will bring you on. I guess Bill also mentioned that he was in your company at the Naval Academy, at least plebe summer. So I'll go ahead and go up, and Stefanie, you have the.
No, thanks, Dale. Thanks. This is such an honor. Good afternoon, everyone. And it was just a delight to listen to both my classmates just now. Wow. You guys are awesome. Anyway, so for me, after graduating from the Naval Academy, also with the class of 80, I spent 13 years on active duty as a general unrestricted line officer. And then after I got out, I worked for 2 different nonprofits that served women and girls. And most recently, I worked for a nonprofit called Academy Women, which is a professional development organization for military women and veterans, with a focus on serving commissioned women and senior enlisted women and veterans. So for both of these organizations, I developed programs that involved mentoring. And my interest in mentoring definitely comes from my experience at the Naval Academy. Because I was in the first gender integrated class with Dale and Barbette and Janie, it was a time when feelings about having women there really ranged from ambivalence to pretty strong hostility toward the women. So this was a time when I and my classmates, certainly speaking for myself, was a time when I needed mentoring. I needed mentoring badly, but there really wasn't any to be had because, or it was very difficult anyway, because there were no upper class women and almost no women faculty or staff. And I think both of these groups of women could have maybe helped us understand what was happening, what the dynamics were that we were going through. And I don't mean to imply that mentoring should always be same gender, but in this case, the issues were, I think, clearly gender-based, so same gender mentoring I think would have been really helpful. But anyway, this very lonely experience at the Academy led me to feel very strongly about the importance of mentoring to everyone, especially when you're going through a really hard and confusing experience. And so this led me to want to create mentoring programs eventually, and particularly for military women. So in 2007, I had the opportunity to do just that because I was working for Academy Women and I had the chance to develop a web-based mentoring program for them. Actually, the first one we developed was a web-based mentoring program for all the women in the Navy. And eventually we created many more, including programs for men. And this was all with Academy Women, the nonprofit Academy Women. And the program was called the E-Mentor program, which is still in existence. And as I was really lucky that as part of directing that program, I had the chance to evaluate it and hear the stories of a lot of women that participated in the program, women and men. And the vast majority shared that their mentoring experiences in the program were very helpful. They helped them advance in their careers, to gain promotions, helped them with personal challenges that they were having, with work-life balance, and in some instances, really helped to retain them. And so I'm going to tell you a quick story right now about just such an experience of someone that I think was just dramatically helped by the program, because I I want you to see the power of mentoring if you're not involved in mentoring right now. And I'm so excited about, well, it's just so nice to know that there's an organization like ASNE that offers you all mentoring. So yeah, anyway, so here's the story. So I was interviewing this woman lieutenant commander in the aviation maintenance designator in the Navy who'd heard about our program, our e-mentor program, and she wanted to come in as a mentor. But when she was signing up, she realized that she herself was suffering with a problem that she needed help with. And so she decided to sign up as a protege too and look for a mentor. So she found another aviation maintenance officer, female, in the program, a captain. Of course, she didn't really want somebody that senior, but she looked her up in the program and connected with her electronically and scheduled a phone call. And she said to the 06, the captain, in her first mentoring meeting, she said, listen, I've got a problem. I don't know how to deal with it. I'm the assistant officer in charge of my unit. And when sometimes when male senior enlisted check in, they have a check-in card and they check in with everybody in their chain of command, and sometimes they skip right over me and they go straight to the officer in charge. And I don't know if it's something about me. I don't know if it's because I'm a woman. And the 06 said to her, it's because you're a woman. It's a gender thing. And here's what you're going to do the next time it happens. You're going to pull that person aside, and here's what you're going to say to them. And the 04 said, well, Captain, I don't know if I can say that. I don't know. I don't even know what she actually told her to say, but it was quite direct. And the captain said to her, she said, well, I hear that you say you don't think that you can say that, but we're going to practice it until you can. And so they had several phone calls where they role played the conversation. And then the next time that this occurred, where a senior enlisted skipped over the lieutenant commander when they checked into the unit, she did exactly what the captain had, and she had practiced. She pulled the person aside. She had this conversation. And then she said to me, she said, Stefanie, you won't believe it. I didn't believe it. But after that, not only did nobody ever skip over me again, but everything at the unit changed. I just found that I was getting more respect. I was taken more seriously. And I didn't even know that some of these attitudes toward me were the way they were until they improved so dramatically. So I tell you this story because I think this is a fabulous example of somebody who was losing confidence in themselves over a problem they didn't know how to solve. And once they got a mentor who helped them with it, it changed everything for them. They regained their confidence and went on to have, in this case, for this woman, went on to have a great tour at this unit, grew as a leader, went on to promote several more times in the Navy to eventually take command and serve a full career in the Navy. And I'm pretty sure that if she hadn't gotten that problem resolved, she would have lost additional confidence in herself, very likely would have not turned into the potential leader she could have become, might have even gotten out of the Navy. So I just want you to realize the power of mentoring. So happily, the e-mentor program is still in existence, and it's actually open to all officers in training, enlisted personnel, whether they're on active duty, separated, retired, or in the reserves. It includes men and women. And I'll put a link to it in the chat. And also there's, if you don't know about it, the Naval Academy also, if you happen to be a Naval Academy grad, has a wonderful formal online mentoring program called the Alumni Mentoring Program. And I'd also encourage everybody to check out Academy Women. We're holding a series of 3 half-day leadership symposia this year by video conference instead of our usual 3-day event. And it's a fabulous leadership conference. We just finished our first half-day event on April 13th, and there'll be another one on August 5th. And these events, even though they are for and about women, we welcome everyone who aligns with our mission, which is to support military women and veterans. So I'll put a link to that in the chat as well. So that's it for me. Thanks for listening, and thanks for inviting me to this special panel.
Thank you, Stefanie. Awesome. And you've got to take the article, read the article. She goes in depth on a lot of these ideas in the article and the digital version. So she's awesome. Stefanie, thank you. Next up is not Navy, even though Naval Academy grad, currently NOAA Corps officer, Lieutenant Commander Becky Shaw. So Becky, if you come up on video, I did a teaser in the beginning about you being such a great mentor for Vice Admiral Dean Peters. I'll make sure I send this video to him to know that I acknowledge that. But anyway, you have an interesting story that is not only awesome, but as a young, considering I'm fairly old here, 2009 graduate, you have done so much already, and you are inspiring young and old of your career. So I'd like you to kind of talk about some of the things you've done. And also, you've done so many mentoring things so far. I've heard, when I first heard of you, it was because of your great mentoring speeches and events that you've been in. So I'll be off the stage and you.
Thank you, Dale. Thank you, everyone. Not only the other panelists who went before me today, but for everyone who invested in yourself to come into this symposium. When Dale typically will introduce me, he'll tell people that I want to be an astronaut, but I should be a stand-up comedian. So I'm really going to have to get some mentorship there to figure out what my next career goal is going to be. I'm originally from Little Elm, Texas. I graduated from the Naval Academy in class of 2009 with my degree in mechanical engineering. And that's where I had my first interaction with a mentor who set me on a path in my career. And that was to become a Navy test pilot. So I don't know that I would even be here today, or I would have even considered this career path that I love if it wasn't for that first interaction. So as Stefanie was saying, it can be like really impactful because this has now like led to a decade long of service and a job that I love. So after the Naval Academy, to become a test pilot, I had to have an engineering background and also to be an aviator. So that first kind of goal that was set after, meeting my mentor and figuring out what it was that I wanted to do was to prove myself as an aviator in the fleet. I did that as a P3 pilot stationed in Hawaii with 2 deployments to Europe and Northern Africa, and then applied to test pilot school, was selected, did a year-long course of engineering, a lot of different flying, and sort of understanding the development of acquisitions, research and development for new platforms, and how we can make sure that what we are developing in the Navy affects the mission. And that occurs also on the ship side and on the submarine side, but the Navy Test Pilot School is specifically for aviation. So after that, I did a 3-year tour as a test pilot, and that was with both mostly large manned and unmanned aircraft. The P-8, I switched over from the P-3 to the P-8. I got to work on the MQ-4 Triton and support other large aircraft that the Navy has. When I say large aircraft, I think like the C-130, E-2, which has a lot of new capabilities coming out. And I enjoyed that tour. I was fortunate enough to be selected to be Vice Admiral Peters at Flag Aid, where you have, like, if you've had a staff tour or you've thought about, a Flag Aid tour, or you're thinking about the equivalent out in business, like working for a senior executive and just following around and like learning how they make decisions and then being able to ask them, like, why did you make that decision? That's sort of like a strict year of mentoring where the exchange is like driving the car and every once in a while grabbing a cup of coffee. So during that time, right, like I'm still in the Navy, I'm selected for lieutenant commander, and I'm also got my master's degree from Johns Hopkins University in space systems engineering. So that was my second engineering degree. And during that time, I had mentors outside of the Navy, and that got me really interested in space. I became really interested in science and wanted to see how the best way for me to incorporate that in flying and continue my career. And that got me, that mentorship, those relationships that I built helped me find out about the NOAA Corps, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, which is the 8th uniformed service now that we have a Space Force, and it's the smallest. So I applied for an inter-service transfer to the NOAA Corps. I was accepted and transferred last summer. I kept my rank. I'm still in the uniformed services. I'm back in the P3, but now I fly the P3 into hurricanes instead of looking for submarines. And then with my test background, I'm able to continue my engineering career working in flight tests and developing new instrumentation for NOAA. And I have a very extensive mentoring chain up and like mentoring chain down. If somebody comes up to me, whether they're a man or woman, military, whatever they're interested in. If they're interested in aviation or they're interested in STEM, I will talk even way more than I'm talking right now to try to figure out what the best path is for you and share my experiences. I also have an extensive mentoring circle. I was on the phone this morning with one of my mentors who's a senior officer in the Marine Corps because I was having like a miscommunication with somebody at work. And I was like, I just need to talk through this. And we, just like Stefanie said, like we went through scenarios, like we went through different like options to try to find a path. So I'm big on mentoring. I'm big on the doors that opens up for you. And like Janie said, like continuing to keep that relationship going, to thank them for what they're doing, and then also making yourself open. So if anyone listening today, any of the things that I've said very quickly resonate with you and you want to talk about either a career in NOAA or in flight test or in engineering or even in space systems engineering, I would be happy to share any of my experiences. And I think mentorship and perseverance will set you on a path for something that you really enjoy. And that's what I hope for you. That's it.
What a great start. I'm glad you didn't get people scared by having, sending them to the video of you flying in a hurricane, because that is a pretty treacherous video that I saw. So maybe we can talk about that in the Q&A. Okay. Next up, there you go, Lieutenant. Perfect timing. Cynthia Langston. She is, like I said, the awesome 2016 grad that is doing Red Team now. Work for Cyber Command. I'm not sure exactly which command, but anyway, I'll let her tell her story. And as I said, as you heard Janie describe, she has been a mentor for her. And Janie has told me that you have been support to help Janie in improved communications with young and others. So Janie has really told me an awesome kind of two-way mentorship with you. So I'll let you go on. And
Thank you, Mr. Lumi. I'm so grateful for this wonderful opportunity to join you and these amazing women on this panel. It's really an honor. I just want to say, first and foremost, that I found mentorship to be so important even before my career. I know Miss Stefanie mentioned that it wasn't always an opportunity, and I'm so grateful that now there are so many avenues to find mentors. I enlisted in the Navy in 2008 as a cryptologic technician, and my first duty station, I met a mentor who was a Air Force sergeant who actually encouraged me to apply to the Naval Academy. And that led me on my path to commissioning and having the opportunity to attend USNA and experience all those things that came along with being a midshipman and preparing to be a young naval officer. And I'm so grateful to her. While there, I met Miss Janie Mines at a basketball game, and I just never let her go. And that was really where I learned how the mentorship relationship can and should go. I learned how much of a two-way street it is, how important it was to be transparent, to be humble and hungry, and to be flexible. Sometimes we can all get set in our ways and think that maybe we know what right looks like, but their experience and all the things they bring to the table are monumental to decisions that we make, and they can definitely help us move in a constant forward motion. So, and remembering to appreciate them, even though you think maybe I want to pay them back in one way or another. One of the biggest things that they appreciate is seeing you succeed. Another thing that I've learned through mentorship, whether it be being mentored or reaching out to other people whether they be my peers, junior, however the case, is to be transparent and to acknowledge that sometimes we don't know the answers and that we can find strength in figuring it out together. One of the things that I've learned along the way is that a mentor can be in any shape, form, size, color. And I learned that you look for traits that you admire, goals that you want to achieve, people that you can communicate with. And even if you don't feel comfortable immediately, them seeing you being humble, hungry, and interested to learn and grow often allows for that communication and relationship to be natural. So that's something that I found very important. If you find yourself in those places where you're not, on promotion, sometimes people might not reach out to you in a way that would happen. For example, I would say challenges I had on my ship. I started off very motivated, excited, and all these things were new to me, and I wanted to learn everything. I wanted to do everything. And of course, when you're up and you're motivated, people seek you out as a mentee. But I had to learn to remember that I have mentors that I can reach out to, and I need to be mentorable in order to make sure that I can grow with the group or with the team, and make sure that communication between myself, mentees, and mentors stays open. And with me being super junior, I don't have a lot to add or a lot to share in addition to that, but I would just recommend anyone interested in mentoring or being a mentee, just stay humble, hungry, flexible, and transparent with those that you're going to be working with. And remember that the relationship is something that you have to continue to pour into. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Lumi.
Well, that's great. And I do want to say it's really kind of funny because you said you have to be mentorable. And on our screen and watching today, I think we have a midshipman from the Naval Academy. We may have some cadets from Coast Guard Academy and Merchant Marine Academy. But I think I've been called out to say, I'm not sure mentorable is a word by a midshipman. But I told them, no, you have to be, because you have to make sure that you understand and you reach out and you are receptive. And this midshipman, second class midshipman, is now a member of our council for the American Society of Naval Engineers on our board of directors. So he really understands that. So thank you for your comments. We'll be bringing up the Q&A here shortly, but I want to introduce, soon you'll find out why I had Heidi become a moderator, because not only is she 1995 grad in the Naval Academy, a surface warfare officer, public affairs officer, but she's eloquent. She has awesome mentor stories. She has been somebody that I've kind of learned from, even though I think that maybe she may say that I'm a mentor of hers. Actually, she's helped me so much in understanding a lot about a good allyship and mentorship. So before I go any further, Heidi, you have the deck and the con, and now you're in charge.
Thanks, Dale. Wow, I feel like after seeing all these wonderful ladies, I feel like I'm sort of the bridge between all of this. I'm the class of 95, which was 15 years after the first class of women graduated from the Naval Academy. And my class was the second class to choose combat ships, which I was very excited about. And I remember thinking I really wanted to thank the class of 80 for really just kicking down the door, and just someone's got to be the first ones to do it. And we would not have had the opportunities that we did if they hadn't gotten it started. And I think sometimes what's been really empowering is to see just last year on Facebook, it's called Service Academy Women, and it encompasses women from all the service academies. And that number right now is close to 10,000. And to put that in perspective, that would fill 2 full aircraft carriers. So the power, it's actually been called better than Google, because you put down literally anything you can think of, and women are piling on this almost immediately. Any problem, whether that's for personal, professional, hey, I'm passing through, I'm having this situation. It's the kind of, I believe for the women in the class of 80, it's very empowering to see, fast forward, over 40 years since they walked in the door, to see us come together in a way that we really couldn't before technology was an option. A little bit more about my background. I'm a daughter of a naval aviator. My father was a P3 naval flight officer. He came from Kansas, of all places, and he did not go to the Naval Academy, but he certainly encouraged. I'm the oldest of 6, and my sister's a Navy doctor. She was a year behind me, and then the middle 2 enlisted in the Navy. So we got a lot of Navy in the family. And really my first mentor is my father, really just, and my mother as well, of course, but he really just was really encouraging and just pitched the idea of the academy, and it's like, why not? Just go for it. And so I think that's really important, just to kind of just jump on an opportunity when you see it. What's really helpful too is just really thinking about just always looking around for ways to welcome people into the fold, finding ways to connect. I think having been a military kid and bouncing all over the place, that made me, I think, really adept at quickly assimilating any situation, looking around for folks, and then also looking around for who was new when I was there for a while, and say, hey, let me help you out. Let me make sure you can get acclimated just as I have. I spent 20 years in the Navy. Like I said, I commissioned an Arleigh Burke destroyer, the Sullivans, and also took that opportunity to lateral transition to public relations around year 7. While I was in Great Lakes, right around that 5-year point, and really thinking that this might be it, it just so happened there were a number of captains that I worked with, a bunch of reserve captains, and one of them actually had worked with my father. So these guys, I have to say, were just like uncles to me. They were really fantastic and really renewed my faith in the Navy. And then when the Navy said, all right, what do you think? Should we go to San Diego or not? I'm like, all right, twist my arm, make me go to San Diego. And then 8 more years of that, I got four more jobs. I got to be in an aircraft carrier. I got grad school out of the deal. They sent me to Miami to work for U.S. Southern Command. And then I ended up here in D.C. about 10 years ago. And that's where I met Dale. And Dale has really been fantastic. I've got me really connected in each of my locations, just getting involved. I've been a Blue and Gold officer too for about the past 20 years. And that's really helped me engage in each of my areas as well, and mentoring midshipman candidates for the Naval Academy, and really trying to get, it's not for everybody, I get it, but just really trying to get people to really consider that path. I find even now, which really shocks me, even in 2021, that women don't always consider the military, or even engineering for that matter. My own daughter right now is a senior, and she's been applying to do engineering stuff, and it's just amazing to see all the opportunities that have been available to her, and how education has increased. The levels are really fantastic. STEM, all these things that I had just really weren't at a level that they are now. It's really just looking at these young women now, young officers, Shuntiyea and Becky, and just all the things they could do. I mean, I remember being at the academy, and I said, there is just no way that submarines is going to open for women. That's just not going to happen. Boom, 2010, it happens. Oh, by the way, yes, one of those women who was in that very first class, she's not an astronaut. I'm like, what more awesomeness is going to come out of these groups of people that just keep building on the success of other people? And I find the mentoring can come in really unexpected ways as well. I was in Millington, Tennessee, really the middle of nowhere. And this young officer comes running up to me, and he said, oh, I heard you're going to be here, and I just wanted to thank you. And I'm racking my brain thinking, who is this kid? And we were on the aircraft carrier together. I was only there, barely a year. And he said, we had a conversation, which I didn't want to admit that I didn't remember, but he said, you know what, you said I should go for commissioning, and here I am. And there he was with his shiny butter bars, and I'm feeling like a proud mom right now. And so I would just say, to always be encouraging in everything that you do, because you just never know how one conversation you may have with somebody could really completely turn things around for somebody, or just change the trajectory of where they're going. So I really think that there's so much in this group, just such an incredible, let's jump into some of the questions that we have here. I think, ladies, if everybody could just pop back on, Barbette and Stefanie and Becky and Shuntiyea. And we'll just kind of put it out just to the group in general. We've heard a lot of mentoring success stories, and Stefanie really was fantastic. The one you were talking about, really just pulling somebody kind of out of that. And I think just, changing how people's perspective, just take charge. That was something that well, yeah, why not? Just give people an opportunity to do that. Let me see. Any other mentoring success stories? Becky or Barbette, just anybody wants to jump in and tell us a couple more stories.
I'll jump on and tell you something relatively recent because I've been involved with this women's shared interest group and trying to get more women involved in leadership within the Alumni Association. I had a gal from the tens, so she graduated 10, 11, 12 time frame, and she wanted to find out more. And she wanted to find a mentor who would help her, connect her, and be with her. And I said, okay, I'll do that for you because there aren't a lot of women who have a lot of experience. I'll be glad to mentor you. But I said, you have to do something for me. You have to mentor me because I am on that older end and I don't always know how to talk to the younger generation. I need you to be, there. So I invited her to all our leadership meetings and I wanted her to there. And I said, and tell me honestly, when I'm doing something wrong or if I'm about to put something out, let me run it past you. And so, we had a trade of the mentorship program. So I thought that was really pretty cool.
Yeah, Shuntiyea, you mentioned your two-way mentoring with Janie Mines, and I was burning with curiosity. I have to know what might she have pointed out that you helped her see that maybe she didn't notice before?
Well, I would say that I always think that it's more so always her mentoring me, but sometimes I ask her questions when she gives me information about whether she's working on something, if it's her book. I definitely kept poking her about her book, but I know a lot of people were. But I ask questions, not always because I want to try to stimulate an answer, but because I'm interested, and I think sometimes those questions help her think about things a little bit differently.
Wonderful. I know, Becky, I know one of the projects I noticed on that you've worked on before is Girls on the Run, and that sort of struck a chord with me because my own daughter did involve Girls on the Run. I also slogged through that 5K at the end of it. Not the best run in the world myself, but I'll go in there and now actually both of my kids are runners. My son actually just broke the 5-minute mile. And so it's been really such that whole sense of just that physical activity as sort of a mentoring and bonding experience. Can you talk more about that?
Well, that specific program, my involvement with that specific program really kind of shows sort of like a mentorship or allyship relationship. And starting that chapter, I had one of my classmates in test pilot school. We both wanted to coach for Girls on the Run. Having physical activity, sometimes in high school or junior high, if it doesn't look like you're going to get a scholarship in college, sometimes coaches won't work with you. But that holistic approach for how good physical activity can be, no matter how you plan to use it. So my friend and I wanted to coach, and there was no chapter in Southern Maryland. And so, she was a class 2008 Marine Corps jet girl, right? So she's a little bit motivated. I'm pretty motivated. We actually worked together to start one. And so where it started out as figuring out a way to mentor and work with young girls to get them to realize that they have the confidence and showing them how physical activity can build confidence and give them good tasks. It turned into this project where we were able to lead and start an organization. And from that, both her and I developed a lot of nonprofit experience just on the side and turned that into mentoring other people who just wanted to start organizations. So not really coming back from the running thing, which I still run to think through, a lot of things. It's more of it's become more of a meditative thing for me, taking that experience to help people realize that if there's a gap for some type of thing they want to start, to just start it was really what came out of that whole Girls on the Run experience.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think the other thing too is starting something is just being able to sustain it. And I think, and I'm especially now because I do have a senior daughter, and there were things, just her actually being a cheerleader and the relationships that I had developed with the other parents, and say, okay, we need to pass the baton to the next group of folks, and really always keeping an eye out as you're going. And I've even told my children this. I said, you have to be looking down at the people that are coming after you and pulling them up with you. Or if someone has mentored you, you do the same. and really just keep it going, just keep passing it on, keep basically, finding that way to connect people, especially just, being observant and saying, who's looking like a little lost here? Who's looking like they're kind of standing on the sideline, kind of pull them in and say, hey, you know what? I know, just tell me more about yourself. And then based on your knowledge of people that are already there, say, okay, hey, you know what? You should talk to so-and-so because I think they could really help you with that. And if they're still not completely connecting, kind of just give them that little boost and kind of help that whole relationship keep going. Stefanie, I'm really interested to hear about how, with the whole Academy Women, how long you were with that, and then how you sort of chose your successors, or maybe your successor sort of stepped up and said, okay, I've got it now, and let's keep the trajectory going.
Great questions. Oh, there's so much to think about with mentoring. Well, the cool thing is the person that took over the e-mentor program is another female Naval Academy graduate. Her name is Nikki, and it's horrible. I cannot think of her last name right now. I'll find it and I'll tell you later. But she's she stepped up we just advertised, and she stepped up to take over the program and has done a really great job. But I was just going to say that we were talking about getting mentors getting mentored by their mentees. And I just want to say for everybody out there who is a mentor and who might be older, don't wait to be mentored by your mentee. Go find young people to mentor you. You don't have to wait till you have a protege to ask them. I love Barbette's story about how she's getting mentored by a protege, but I seek out younger mentors often because often they're doing something that I want to do that wasn't even around when I was their age, and now I want to do it. And so I get mentored by them. So definitely, and I think Becky spoke to this, mentors come in all shapes, sizes, ages. So I would say seek out those younger people to mentor you. They'll not only teach you things that you don't know, but help you be in touch, like Barbette said, with that generation. You have multiple generations of people working for you oftentimes. And it's just a really great way to learn to speak their language and understand what their concerns are. Just understand that whole generation better. Yeah.
Oh, great points, Stefanie. Yeah, I do remember, again, just right before I graduated and reached out to your class. And it would start off as, let's write them a letter to thank them, turned into, let's have a luncheon. Like, why not? Sure, let's do it. And then we also had Admiral Marcia Evans, who was one of the more senior women at the time, and she had been in charge of recruiting, and she was sharing with us some of the recruiting posters. And we're like, wow, that actually worked. Like, people actually wanted to join because of this. So we just had a laugh over it. But I know for some of your classmates, I think there were 3 who did come. That had been the first time they'd come back in 15 years. And that to me was something that I hope that started to shift things. I mean, I've come back from my 15-year reunion only because I just couldn't come back sooner. I was, had children, or it was too far away or whatever. And then every time I come back, I've been back for our 25th was supposed to be last year, but no. So anyway, we're working on that. And it's been such a great experience for me, with my classmates being like brothers to me, and really, I think just connecting in a way that I think, again, too, it's the wake of tailhook, the wake of almost going the opposite direction of, oh, we can't say that in mixed company. I'm like, just say it, okay? Whatever you got to say. Let's just, we're just gonna be cool. Everybody just be professional. It's just not that hard. It really isn't. No one should be afraid to talk. No one should be afraid to really just keep it real. And just be there to support each other. And so I think it's to see this growth and this evolution, to see, especially recognizing everything that had to come before, and just, brick by brick, piece by piece. And now, for example, we've got the first, from the class right before me, from the class of 94, the first woman, Captain Amy Byron-Schmidt, to now she will command an aircraft carrier. So, and even then, it just surprised me how commentary is mostly positive, but there's always someone in there who can have that one little comment that could for some reason, people will let that one comment bring the whole thing down. And that's really the main thing, is that there's always going to be someone who's going to find fault, or be the hater, or whatever you want to call it. You just can't let that person have their, not necessarily have their say. But for example, someone that just was trying to imply in some way that there were any shortcuts. And I jumped in immediately. I said, absolutely not. She was homegrown, day one, first class that had this opportunity, and she did every step of the way. The woman has incredible amount of flying hours, impeccable, like even other men, I could see that's when you know you've arrived. When you see other men now jumping in and saying, no, I served with her. She's amazing. Wow, like class act, awesome. And so I have to imagine for everything, for people that came before us, and everything they had to put up with, to now see that shifting, to see that allyship, to see the people who really stepped up now and aren't afraid to talk, and that's another part of it too, is not just quietly saying nothing when someone is not doing the right thing, is just stepping up. Yes, Dale, please do.
No, Becky does. Becky wanted to jump in.
Yeah, go ahead, please do.
Heidi, when you spoke earlier, as far as like seeing that next step, like those people behind you, like that it really like resonated with me. And when I think about the future of where aviation is going and where engineering is going and where sort of we're developing in the space race, this mentorship, this vision that we have is so important, because the people who are listening, who are in college right now or in high school right now, are going to be the ones that are going to be solving those problems. And we are, like, I think everyone is very excited and like primed to help you get there, because of how important what you're going to do for this nation and like for technology as a whole is, with this engineering background. And then for those of you in the chat who are senior and you're hearing this and you haven't considered your opportunity to mentor men and women, this is like your charge and your challenge to kind of take some of these notes and figure out what you can offer, because you can offer something to help that next generation, to help the technology, like to help that relationship, but also help the technology grow, because the people who are listening to this are going to be the ones doing it. So it's like, I could do all the cool flight tests in the world and I could do this forever, but like if I don't encourage other people to be test pilots or to be naval officers or to go to the Naval Academy and get engineering degrees, we're not going to continue to grow. So when you said that, Heidi, it just like resonated with me. And I just hope that those of you who are listening know that you play an important role in like the future of like this country. And just, yeah, I'm done. Thanks.
I love that. I love that. And I just want to say, if you are a young engineer out there and you're wondering how to get started, there have been already a lot of things said today that I think are keys. One of them is just look around you. I think Shuntiyea said this, look around you for somebody who has what you want, who around you is doing the kinds of things you want to be doing or has the qualities that you want to develop. And just ask that person to have coffee with you. And then in that conversation, you don't have to step up to them at 9 a.m. and say, will you be my mentor? Just have coffee with them and talk to them and see if you've got a rapport, if you can easily talk with them. And if, ask them some questions. And if you like the way they answer your questions, they might be a great candidate to be a mentor. The other thing is your mentor you don't have to sign up to have somebody mentor you for the next 30 years. You can have somebody mentor you through a difficult project. You can have somebody mentor you in one area where you feel like you're weak. You can have somebody mentor you just as you transition into a new job or as you transition into a new organization. And anybody, and I think you've heard that from several panelists today, anybody who's really successful, they don't have one mentor. They have a slew of mentors that work with them in different areas of their lives, different areas of their career and different areas of their life. And the only other thing I want to say is that when I was young and didn't know anything about mentoring, if I look back, I can see there were always senior people around me who were asking me questions that led me to believe that they were interested in my career. But I didn't know enough to realize those were subtle invitations to mentoring relationships. I didn't see it. So also, if you're a young person, look around you. Who often asks you how you're doing in school? Who often asks you how you're doing in your new job, or with a project that you've just started? Those are all fabulous potential mentors. And now I will shut up.
I think those are great, definitely great points. And I like what you mentioned too, because maybe at different life stages, you may need a different type of mentor. So say, usually, early on, maybe the first 5-ish years, maybe first 10 years, you got your nose to the grindstone, you're piling through, and, you have a lot of high energy. Maybe, you end up having relationships, so you have children, or then the relationships maybe work or don't work. And so you may just need different types of mentoring depending on what life stage that you're in. Another one question that I think comes up a lot, especially with women, is sort of work-life balance. And that's not always with children sometimes, but sometimes, for example, single folks who have maybe aging parents, or maybe, you just like your own time sometimes and whatnot. So, Barbette, I think we'll start with you. I know the whole work-life balance, I'm sure, has come up about 1,000,000 times. So what are your thoughts on that?
Sure. I think a lot of it really gets to kind of defining what it is, what does it mean to have it all? I've heard so many people say, you can't have it all and, be in the Navy. You can't be a mom and a good wife and a this and a Girl Scout mom. And, you can't have it all. Well, define what it means to really have it all. I jokingly say I'm still married to my first husband. 37 years later, I'm still married to my first husband. I have 2 daughters who are very successful, and I had a very successful career. I think I had it all. For me, that was what was a good career for me. But I have to set goals, and I have to have that conversation with the family, not just with my husband, with the family. This next set of orders, is this where we need to go? We had a plan. It didn't work out. Can we be flexible? So it's really important that we kind of know where we're going. And as I said, I had that somebody who mentored me as I was transitioning out of the workforce and helping me along with that. And then I had to be willing to say, no, thank you. Thank you for that offer to join that wonderful organization, but no, thank you. I want to do more, do better where I'm at. So it's really finding that time of what wakes me up in the morning and makes me excited to go. And it's not always easy. There's peaks and valleys the whole way along. Of do I look back and say, gosh, I wish I could have spent a little bit more time with my kids. I didn't go to every soccer game. I didn't go to every awards, but that's okay. They still love me. I still love them and their success. So it's finding those goals and being flexible.
Shuntiyea, I know it's a little earlier in your career, but what are some things that you've kind of picked up along the way, or even just, I know what Barbette is saying, just saying, you know what, this is what I would like to do, or maybe either taking an opportunity that might make you feel maybe a little bit of a fish out of water, or maybe you're feeling like maybe this is not something that I think I can do, but just the fact that someone says, you know what, I think you're the great person for this job, and you'd be like, I'm going to press the I believe button, let's do this.
Some of the things that I didn't catch a lot of it froze on my end. I think some of the things that I'm working balance is that I find myself applying myself so much at work, and I think about sports where you hear leave it all on the field, and that's what I found myself doing a lot, is leaving it all at work. So I'm expending all of this energy at work, so that when I was trying to build relationships with family, friends, or engagements, I didn't have that energy when I came home. And even recently, I've learned from my chiefs at work, they're saying, ma'am, you got to allow, we're still learning. I got a bunch of new chiefs, a full turnover, and it's been interesting, but they're like, ma'am, we need you to take lunch. We need you to do these things for you. And I have to start learning how to do that stuff, and I still don't have that experience yet. And the reason that I work so hard is because for example, like you mentioned, I didn't feel worthy to be on this panel, or I don't feel like I've met the wickets that I want to consider myself to be able to sit among everyone, but I have to learn. Definitely, as we mentioned before, pouring into your mentors and mentors pouring into you, that definitely helps me build my confidence, and also experiences and the small wins and victories. So that's where I am with that right now.
Becky, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that as far as your your balance, just trying to do the best thing you can for work. And I know we sometimes also as women sometimes feel that pressure to have to, be the best or do more and that sort of thing. But I think it's really important to set boundaries as well.
I'm glad that we're talking about this. I will say during COVID this last year, it has been really difficult to set those boundaries. Like when I was on my first tour, like when you're on that first as like a junior lieutenant, like starting a career, I think I would like work till like 7 or 8 at night. I don't know if I just had nothing else to do or what. And that has changed because I know that's not effective. But for some reason with COVID, I'll find myself like back in those habits where you kind of never can turn off work. So you're always able to just like get on your computer and start getting into emails or working on reports. And so that has kind of like reaffirmed how important it is to take a step back and be like, it's important to be present for myself and to save up energy. So like I can be, productive at work and I can put my best foot forward because I've rested and given myself a break. So I don't know if other people have had that experience, but it's definitely like COVID has challenged me to like re-put in those boundaries to say like, okay, at this time I'm like closing the computer and I'm going to go do something else.
No, I definitely agree with you on that. And that's something that I think I was very fortunate with my career. When my children were younger, I had a BlackBerry for the first time, and it's like, wow, have BlackBerry, we'll travel. I mean, I could be there in the grocery line, I could be at work, I could be all the time. But I know it's one of those very conscious efforts when I got home because they were going to bed at 7:30, and even if I got home at 7, I would put that phone down and I would not look at it until put it face down, like not even up so you can see an alerts. Just don't even put that thing over, don't even look at it, and don't even pick it up again until and don't even think about it. Just really be present and be focused on who you're with at that time. It's so easy, especially now my own children have phones. And we're like, no phones at the table. Just don't even think about it. Like maybe you could sneak it over if you're going to show me something or you're going to show me a video we can talk about, but just do not even allow them and just try to have better boundaries with that sort of thing. And when they're talking to you, just put the phone down, like be present, whatever it is, it can wait. And just, even now, especially the weather's getting nicer, I said, I've been in the house all day. I work from home. Go outside. Just go take that half an hour, even just a midday break, take that half an hour and just go for a walk. Just do something else, but just don't even look at your phone for a while. That's probably sometimes, there are endless things to see. Like, when Barbette and Stefanie and I were growing up, the TV literally stopped playing at midnight, whatever that was, and it did not go back on until 6 a.m. There was no cable. That just did not exist. And so now it's just to feed the beast. Me in public relations, it's just this constant flow of information, and you can get on that bandwagon and you'll just go down that rabbit hole of just watching stuff constantly. But just really focusing, being present, and having that time to just do what matters to you. I had a classmate of mine, and I didn't really see her as much on Facebook as much anymore. And she said, I just made a conscious effort to not go on that as much, or even just take a fast, if you will. And she says, I'm doing yoga, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm like, wow, she's actually like doing really cool things. So it's really easy to get sucked into stuff or just have work run your life. And so it's sort of like the technology can be the double-edged sword. You can kind of flow your life around your work to some degree, depending on the kind of work you do. Obviously, if a job like a Shuntiyea, then, you got to be in a skiff or you got to be somewhere where, but you sometimes just got to, because the work is not going to stop. It's not going anywhere. There'll be more tomorrow. So it's okay. You can just, again, set those boundaries, because people will continue to take advantage of your boundary if you don't set them. So I think that's just really something to keep in mind, especially the younger ones. Yeah, there's a place and a time and place when you're first coming to a job. You want to just, jump in there with 2 feet. You want to show your team player. But there comes a point too where you don't feel guilty about, say, I have an appointment. Now, that's nobody's business what that appointment is. It doesn't matter if that's a medical appointment. It doesn't matter if it's an appointment to watch your kids do whatever thing that they're doing. It's an appointment. It's important to you. That's it. Just put it in there and don't move it, and say whatever it is, it's just going to have to be like, I don't even know what could be more important than whatever commitments you make. Really do your best to just keep those commitments. Dale, are you trying to jump in here, or Stefanie?
I just wanted to say that I love everything that you guys said, but what it underlines for me is that this is an area where most women need a mentor. All of us struggle with this. And I heard Shuntiyea talk about worthiness. That's always been a thing for me too. You know, I have to prove myself. And you can just get completely immersed in work and ignore everything else in your life. Several women came into the eMentor program looking for mentors just for this. And I was just so pleased to see that they, you know, that's what they were looking for. I mean, I had one woman who came in, she was a tactical pilot, and said, you know, I don't know a single fixed wing pilot female who is married and has children. Do you have anybody in your program? Because if you do, I want to talk to her, because all the people she knew, all the pilots that she knew, in that they got out because they just couldn't make it work. And she said, I believe that I can make it work, but I need somebody to tell me, because I don't know how. And so, my advice is just, this is an area in your life where you need a mentor, maybe one, maybe two. Find somebody who's making it work the way you want it to look, the way you want your life to look, and who has work-life balance, and go talk to them.
And that comes back to being a role model too. You've got to show other people that that's what's acceptable. I know there was one guy that my husband worked for who came out straight up and said, the only way to get ahead is to work a half an hour longer than the guy next to you. But then he slipped away, you know. Okay, what are you modeling here for me? And so I learned it really from my second supply officer on my second ship. He was just amazing. He was just a strong conviction of family and faith were important to him. So he just said, I will not work on Sundays unless we're doing, GQ or, general quarters or something. He says, I will not hold meetings on Sundays. I will not do this. And when it comes to the end of the day, I will go home. And I kind of looked at him like, really? Is that how we're supposed to do this? And, once I started kind of following that role model, it's like, oh, I get it. I can make my family a priority. I can say no to things. Boy, what a difference it made. So, I try to model that now for others, that if I really say it's important to go home or to go for a walk, do it yourself.
Yeah, I had two different experiences with that. On my first ship, so there I was a division officer. I had a young, he actually had just transferred. I was auxiliaries and electrical. So we had the enginemen and electricians. I call it really the salt of the earth, people that really just, they call it the hotel services, air conditioning, the whole bit. And so he was new to my division. We were about to get underway for one day. It's kind of like new captain, take the car out for a spin kind of thing. And this guy was telling me, he drops a leaf chit for that day. He said, I've got family coming in from Costa Rica. I haven't seen him in 5 years. And I'm like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. Let's do it. I'm not going to miss you for one day. The chief engineer was like, oh, the engineers, we all go to 3C. We don't miss a movement. I'm like, ma'am, seriously, I'm not going to miss him for one day. And he's going to be so happy that he got to see his family that he's going to do twice as much work for me when he gets back. So I got my way. I had to do some slight arm twisting. But I think that just speaks to really, in another situation where I had one of my junior sailors who was selected for the all-Navy basketball team. And we were, again, about to get underway on an aircraft carrier for 3 months. And she was going to be out most of that time. But, a junior sailor. And I said, this is a great honor for the ship. I'm getting dirty looks from the XO for walking up this chit for her. And I said, you know what? We'll figure it out. We'll make it work. If you can't pull one person out of your organization and continue to function, you've got some larger problems. So I just think it's really important to just keep the dialogue open, keep talking with folks, let them know that you support them. And that, and I said, I want to be able to say yes to everything you want to do personally and professionally. I can't do that if we're not cross-training. I can't do that if we don't really, just keep that dialogue open. I mean, I had a young junior sailor who, he already had 2 kids. We were the same age, basically. He already had 2 children, and I didn't even know his wife was pregnant with the third. Oh, by the way, the first 2 were preemies. That would have been good to know. And then lo and behold, his wife gets put on bed rest right as we're getting ready to go underway for like a week. And I was like, dude, we gotta talk about this. I mean, I had to leave him behind during that time, but I said, if we don't know about it, we can't fix it. And so that's where I think it's just important to just stay connected with the folks that you're working with. Just be aware of the things that they could be struggling with, or things that they may not even realize they may have an issue with. Whether that's, I have a friend now, he's an 06, and he's not the only person in his family, but he's the only one stepping up to take care of his elderly mom. So, and it's definitely impacted his work, and it's impacted, just different things that have happened. And so criticism from other family members. So I think really just being open to those things and caring, and just, you may never know where you're paying attention to these small signals or little signs. Say, you know what, just take the day, just go get yourself focused, get this done, and tell me how I can help you. Tell me what we can do to make this a better situation for you.
We only got about 10 minutes left on this thing, and I'm actually getting text Q&As in from people. I know you have some more there, but one of the ones that I think is important, that it kind of has a couple themes from several different people, really asking, pass along any type of resources that you have that can help you be a better mentor. It could be books, it could be society, it could be Alumni Association, it could be ASNE. I look at Barbette and look at her and see both No Coincidence, First Class, and the books back there of, written by our classmates that are good examples, but I'll let you continue on and answer that. But there's a couple of those questions.
Well, I'd say Stefanie hit a lot of it. Good organizations, the Service Academy Women, Academy Women, the Alumni Association Mentoring Program for those who are Naval Academy graduates, really important, and e-mentoring program. So I think those are some great resources to start with, and then getting connected with women's groups, women in the Women's Shared Interest Group at the Naval Academy Group. It's just a starting point, at least, for making all the rest of the connections.
Becky, do you have any, or Stefanie, I think you're about to go on? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I have a really nice it's just a simple handout on how to be a good mentor and how to be a good protege. I don't think I can load that up into the chat, but I can, I don't know, Dale, if there's a way for me to give you that, or I can just put my email in the chat, and anybody who would like it, I would be happy to give it to you. It's excuse me?
I said share the document, and for all of our attendees, I can forward it, and then we can, figure out how to do it in the future. But go ahead and share the document with me, and then we'll figure out the best way. But now,
Great, yeah, because there's a professor at the Naval Academy who studies mentoring, and he developed this list. So it's evidence-based, which is nice. It's not just and it's cool that a lot of the speakers today have touched on many of those things. Okay, I'll share it with you.
I'll say, just for what I found recently, is I try to find out, to start at the beginning, find out exactly what the mentor, the mentee is looking for, just to get an idea of where they're starting from and their background knowledge. And then I share my network a lot. So if somebody is interested in something that I don't really know about, or if they're kind of looking at a couple different things, I'll connect them to other people. And so that's, along with, of course, the advice that the other people have given. Those are two things that I found really useful in becoming a better mentor, is making sure I understand what the need is, and then also being able to ask other people that I know, other mentors I've had or other people in my network, to help provide information for them.
Awesome. Shuntiyea, do you have any resources that you recommend?
I'm trying to think of some good resources that I recommend. I know, at least for sailors, there's always, or usually, pretty good programs at your command to do mentorship. I heard Rebecca mentioned earlier that her command does speed dating for mentorship, and my command has done something similar once before too. I thought that was pretty unique. And I know that there are a lot of Facebook groups, common interest Facebook groups for female naval officers. There are a ton, but surprisingly, you'll find almost anything on Facebook, and maybe you have to sift through to see what's good, but I've found Facebook to be a really good resource where you can ask questions and find different avenues to try to accomplish something that you want to do.
Talk about speed here. I'll give you all like 1 minute as a wrap up before I end up here because we don't want to extend past an hour and a half. But I'll ask Barbette to go ahead and start, and then any last comments before we close out here on the value of mentoring.
I would just say thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to this group, and I think you can see that it is different questions, different assistance you need all along your life journey, and don't be afraid to ask. That's the big thing. Don't be afraid to ask. Worst somebody can say is no, I don't have the time, but ask. Stefanie.
Thanks. I would just say, I would echo what Barbette said. The main thing is, it's not about, like so many important things in life, it's not about doing it perfectly or finding the perfect mentor and the perfect time. Just do it. Because as you do it, you'll discover more and more about how to do it well. The only thing that we didn't touch on much today that I think is also very important, and actually Becky started to talk about it, when you first sit down with a mentor or a protege, the most important thing is to find out, to get on the same page, find out what the protege is looking to achieve so that you have goals to work toward together. Also set ground rules, decide how often you'll meet, where you'll meet, because often, especially online mentoring relationships can fall apart if there are misunderstandings about how often you'll meet and how much time you'll give each other and all of that. So it's really important to set expectations at the start of your relationship to get off on the best foot. But thanks for letting me participate today. I learned a lot about mentoring myself.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for letting me join this group. I learned a lot from the rest of the panelists, and I enjoyed just hearing your stories. My last piece of advice is just don't ever be self-limiting. If you take yourself out of, the opportunity to get a mentor, if you take yourself out of an opportunity because you don't think you can do it, don't let that be your narrative. So if you want anyone to help you, all you have to do is ask, but don't take yourself out of the game. That's it. Thank you.
Awesome advice. Shuntiyea?
I want to say thank you as well. I've learned a lot today. Thank you.
Heidi, I'll let you wrap up here, and then I'll do closing comments. So, Heidi.
Sure, thanks. No, I mean, the main thing that I've just learned and between my career and everything else is just don't let one negative comment negate all the amazing things that there are about you. Nobody else's comments define you. You define you. And so, if someone in your life is maybe not being supportive or not being the sort of friend that they need to be, then that's okay. There's plenty more out there. So just really try to have in your inner circle of people who are really supportive of you and understand you.
All right, let me get back on video. Thank you for the awesome recommendations, comments, insights. I know I've heard many of you before and many different platforms, and I understood that you would provide such great advice only because many of you have already mentored me in my career and post-Navy career and what we're doing now. I do believe that, as kind of Becky highlighted in some of her comments, is that you have to not only start with your personal self-care, take care of yourself, but you've got to look at the holistic side of what you're doing to make sure that you're doing your work, your job, yourself, and taking care of all that. Mentoring, somebody can mentor somebody to do great at a job, but as I've tried to help mentor, midshipmen and my daughters and others, is that you've got to be a good citizen. You've got to not only do, as we were taught at the Naval Academy, morally, mentally, and physically. So as we look at mentoring people, you got to think of that as kind of Becky highlighted, holistically, in that you become a better mentor when you understand that, somebody's motivations can be from outside of work, can be their hobby, And I think what we've highlighted in these inspirational women here, you see many different stories of what inspired them. And what we're trying to do is inspire this next generation of women and everybody to see that there are role models that have come from many different walks in life. If you hear some of the stories of Stefanie and Barbette, where they started out from and where they ended up, you'll find out that role models and mentorship help them take a different path along the way. And that has made all the difference. So I want to say we have 2 more days of this Intelligent Ships Symposium. You all can go in and see some of the professional stuff that we're doing for these events. We'll be doing future mentor events. I do believe that some of the ladies on here that have not already been interviewed in a special edition, that I'm going to be asking you for a future special edition interview so we can highlight what you're doing and your role models and mentorship. And other than that, I have to say, from the good aviation perspective, we're ready to pull chocks and move on and look forward to the next event. We're going to have a mentoring session. So from the worldwide headquarters of the American Society of Naval Engineers, we're pulling chocks and shutting down here. Have a good day. Thank you.